Let me tell you about the spookiest demonic encounter I ever had. So, I used to be a worship leader at a church, and I used to be married to a worship leader at a church. It was our first year of marriage, and we had just moved into a very small apartment, and it was in kind of a rough part of town. And well, one evening, me and my husband were just kind of hanging out on the little patio area outside our front door. It was dark, it was probably about 9 o'clock in the evening. And as we're sitting there just kind of talking, I look over my shoulder because something catches my eye, and I see a man standing probably 15 feet from us, dressed in solid black. He had like a hoodie on, like had a hood over his face, and I couldn't make out any facial features, but he was just standing there, just looking at us. And I look at my husband and I go, babe, let's go. That guy's creeping me out. And my husband kind of looks over there and he goes, okay. And he kind of ushers me back inside. We go inside, shut the door, lock the door. And I was like, what was that guy doing? That was just super creepy. He was just standing there staring at us. And my husband looks at me and he said, look, I didn't want to say this while we were outside because I didn't want to scare you, but there was nobody there. I said, nobody there? He was right there, like 15 feet away. He was just standing on the sidewalk staring at us. How could you have not seen him? And he said, I swear to God, babe, I looked right where you were looking. There was nobody on the sidewalk. This story gets creepier. Not long after this, my husband wakes me up in the middle of the night. We're laying in bed together and he's like, babe, wake up. And so I kind of stir awake and I'm like, what? And he's like, are you the one sitting here tapping on the headboard? And I'm like, what? He's like, I've been laying here awake for like 30 minutes and I thought maybe you were just laying there like trying to prank me and scare me. I'm like, knocking on the headboard. He's like, yeah, it's just been going like just right behind my head. And I thought maybe it was your hand and you were trying to do it to scare me. And I said, no, I'm not knocking on the headboard. And he's like, okay, super weird. We go to sleep. He wakes up, I don't know how long it was, but he wakes up and he wakes me up again. He was like, oh my God, I just had the most demonic, terrifying dream. And I'm going to tell y'all about that dream and how it came true in part 2.
Did you know that you can very easily be haunted just by coming into contact with something that may already have some type of supernatural attachment to it? Something as simple as you renting a book from the library, or you go into a doctor's office and laying on a bed that may have had a couple people pass away on it. It's pretty scary. The story actually happened to my mom, and it happened to her yesterday. So yesterday, my mom had to go get an MRI. I don't know if you guys know how MRIs work, but they typically will put like an IV on you with some sort of dye. So like things show up while you're under the MRI machine. She says when she went into this machine, of course it was cold in there. She had to be in there for about 45 minutes. The minute she laid on this table, she felt this coldness like just take over her body. It almost felt like a cold hug. But she ignored it because she thought that it was probably just because the room was cold. Right after the MRI, she started getting ready to go home. But she said that she felt off. Like something about her just didn't feel right. She just assumed that she was probably feeling sick from the dye they had injected in her, or from just being enclosed in the MRI machine for 45 minutes. She makes it home and starts to get settled in, and nighttime comes, she goes to bed. My mom is a very spiritual person. She's way more sensitive than I am, so every night before she goes to bed, so nothing comes and bothers her, she always has her phone playing like Psalms 91, or she'll have some type of prayer playing in the background as she like drifts off to sleep. Now, this prayer will play for the whole entire night till the time she wakes up in the morning. She says at about 3 a.m. she was just wide awake, and she realized that there was no noise coming from her phone, like her phone was completely off, and her room was pitch black. She grabbed her phone trying to figure out why like the Psalms 91 wasn't playing, and realized that her phone was completely off, even though it was plugged into the charger. She turned her phone back on and started trying to get like the video going again. She started to hear knocking on her bedroom window. Now, my mom has these 3 large glass windows in her bedroom. She said she heard knocking in all different directions of the window. At this point, she knew that she was dealing with something supernatural, but still she was praying, trying to kind of just shake it off and tell this thing to just leave her alone. By about 4 a.m. she couldn't take it anymore, and her guides were literally yelling at her to get up. You need to get out of bed. This thing is coming for you. You need to get up, go in the shower, and you need to cleanse yourself. My mom said that when she walked into the shower, she saw a woman standing there. This woman looked deranged in a hospital gown, just laughing, but like this wicked laugh. My mom's like, oh heck no, like this lady gotta go. I don't know where she came from, but she needs to go. My mom gets in the shower, she starts scrubbing herself. She actually keeps holy water in her shower. She had like salt, she had a couple other things that she uses to like spiritually cleanse herself, and she's like praying, trying to get this thing off of her. When she closes her eyes while she's in the shower, she gets a vision of that same woman still laughing hysterically, pretty much saying like, I'm back now, like I'm back. I'm gonna take over you. You're gonna be my way back. Pretty much this lady was trying to like possess my mom. This story is getting a little bit long, so I'm gonna have to do a part 2, and I promise it will be up right after this one. This is part 2. So after my mom saw the vision of the woman pretty much telling her that she wanted to possess my mom completely like rebuked her, pretty much told her that she wasn't welcome, that she continued to pray and continued to scrub herself clean until eventually this lady like left. After doing some investigation, again, my mom is extremely spiritual. She talked to her guides, and her guides pretty much told her where this lady had come from. Apparently this lady had recently passed away. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, but she had all of the signs of having some sort of cancer. But no matter how many MRIs that the doctors performed on her, nothing would ever come up. This lady became extremely desperate with trying to figure out what was making her sick, so she was constantly coming in and out of this office, practically begging for MRIs to get some sort of answers. Mom's guys then told her that the reason why doctors couldn't find anything physically wrong with her was because her illness wasn't like a natural illness. It was a supernatural type illness. Somebody had done brujeria on this lady to make her sick and to give her all of the symptoms of having cancer without showing any of the evidence. This lady did in fact end up passing away, and due to her passing away in this sort of state of like this complete desperation, she had become attached to that MRI machine. And when my mom lay there, being that she's extremely spiritual and she's extremely sensitive, makes us extremely like magnets. We are magnets to this stuff. The lady just attached herself to my mom. I was trying to hitch a ride somewhere else, but thankfully my mom was able to kind of get her off of her. But it just comes to show, like, it's just crazy to me how easily you can attract something. And to a person who just may not have any type of like experience with this type of stuff, to have to come back, you coming back from a doctor's visit to you being now haunted, like, to me is completely insane. So yeah, always be aware. Everything's haunted.
I'm doing y'all a favor by telling the story in the daytime, because I know a lot of people do not like scary stories at night. I mean, they do, but anyway, I just want to share some creepy stuff that has happened to me before. So in 2006, I'm telling my age, in 2006, I moved to Texas, the grand old state of Texas. We moved into a new build. It was me, my dad, my mom, and my little brother. All is well, it's beautiful. I'm so excited because I'm a military kid. We've never had our own home before. We've always just lived on base, so this was new to me. So we move in. It's not on any kind of Indian burial ground, not next to a cemetery, none of that. It's just a new build in Texas. It's a 2-story, 5 bedrooms, real typical. So we get there, I'm excited. My bedroom is at the end of a T-shaped hallway, and then out. My bedroom's over here. The end is my dad's office. And then in this little corridor, it leads out to the living room, or the upstairs media area, whatever you want to call it. At first, I'm excited, right? I'm a teenager. I've got my whole brand new furniture. Everything's going great. I'm excited to meet like country boys. Such a letdown. But I am instantly uncomfortable. My bed, the way it is, it's like facing the door, so I can look down the hallway to my dad's office. And every night I'm just so uncomfortable because I have this, I didn't see anything, but you know when you can feel someone looking at you, and you can actually even sometimes tell how big the person is, or something like that is what was going on. I was feeling this presence. It was so creepy. She was like squatting. It was a kind of child, like I would say probably like 11 to 12-year-old, squatting and just looking at me in the hallway. It was so foreboding. I just knew she wanted to hurt me. She wanted to kill me. Maybe it's dramatic, but that's literally how I felt. Every night I felt her, and it's like I had an image in my head of this almost drowned rat looking kind of situation. She was just staring at me through a curtain of hair. I don't know how I'm getting this image because I did not see her. I just felt it. So my response to that was, I'm not sleeping in my room. I am a full teenager, like 16, 17 years old, whatever, something like that. I decided I'm going to sleep in our spare room, where I felt that there was a older male presence that was kind of protective. I would sleep in there, or I would sleep in the living room, or sometimes I would go sleep in my brother's room, but I was not sleeping in my room. Fast forward, I'm in college. My parents have separated. My dad is selling that house. He has professional cleaners coming. If you know anything about San Antonio, Texas, because that's where it was, it is full of Hispanic individuals. They are rich in culture. They have brujeria. They have just their own spiritual thing going on. These two cleaners, one was male, one was female, they're doing their job. They make the home beautiful and everything. And they just randomly tell my dad, did you know that there are two spirits here, a female and a male? Bruh, I thought I was crazy. But that's just the lightest story that I have about paranormal stuff that has happened to me. Tell me what you think. Has anything like that ever happened to you before? Am I crazy?
Okay, you asked for it. So in 2016, I worked as a camp counselor at a summer camp in Alabama. And that should tell you right there that shit went down. There was one day that I was working the night shift and all the kids had gone back to their dorms to go to sleep. And then we had like our closing shift duties, just like cleaning our workstations. The area that I was assigned to clean was a loft. So there is a ladder and then like a very small room at the top. The coworker that was assigned that area for their closing duties was actually my roommate at the time. And I'm tagging her in the caption just in case she wants to tell her side of the story, she can. It's just as much her story as it is mine. So anyways, I'm gonna go up the ladder first and then she's going to hand me the cleaning box, so like all of the Clorox and Windex and shit like that. I'm probably 2 rungs up on the ladder and I look up and there's like 2 little hands that reach over and like grab the top rung, and then a little boy with blackish hair kind of like peeks over at me. And just as fast as he peeks over, he kind of like pulls back. It scared me shitless because I thought for sure he was a camper and we were going to be in a lot of trouble. Because again, we work at a summer camp, so it's not unreasonable to think that a kid just got mischievous and was on the loose in the camp somewhere. But it's definitely against the rules, and as staff, we would have gotten in trouble. So just as a jump scare, I kind of like jump off the ladder and back up, and I turn back to my coworker. And as soon as I'm like, did you see that? She looks at me and she's like, did you hear that? She said, there's a little kid's voice that just said, hey there. So I saw him, but I didn't hear him. And she heard him, but she didn't see him. And we're like, shit, we're gonna lose our jobs. So I start flying up the ladder and I get up into the loft, and it's a very small room and it's one way in and one way out. And there's no kid. We searched for like 10 minutes. And when I tell you this room is like 5 by 5, it's like a 5 by 5 area. At this point, there's no reason to think anything paranormal is going on. We just think we need to get to the security office because there's cameras and we can see where this kid went. We run to our security office and he pulls up the footage from me climbing up the ladder. You see me start to climb up, I freeze, jump off the ladder, and I look at my coworker. And there's no kid at the top of the ladder. And then it clicks. When I tell you the fear that ran through my body when I realized I had just come face to face with a little ghost. I've had paranormal experiences throughout my whole life, but this was the first one that was like right there in my face. So I'm like hyperventilating in this security office, and my coworker is still a little bit on edge because she didn't see it, she just heard it. So it was easier for her to be like, maybe I just imagined it. But things happened whenever we got back to our apartment that night that made us think that maybe he followed us back and continued to follow us for like a year after that. And I haven't worked at that place in years, but from the people that I keep up with that still work there, some of the camp counselors still tell stories of hey there. It's kind of become like a little camp urban legend, but only 2 of us know that it actually happened. And I'm like really nervous telling this story because I keep laughing and smiling a lot, but it's just because every time we bring him up, something weird happens to one of us. Like we tried to film a podcast about it and we put it out there, but the entire time we were filming the podcast, we kept having weird shit happen. So I'm just like a little on edge telling the story. I've thought about it for years. I've always wanted to tell it on TikTok, but I just get nervous that things are gonna start happening again. So that's like the opening scene to a very long paranormal experience that this kid put me through. But even if I stop talking about it, I know that the camp is gonna talk about it forever.
One time in my 20s, I was dating a dude who sold his soul to the... And I didn't believe him at first, and then things just started getting super weird. So he would come over to my apartment, and one night we had like this fight because he was doing some unsavory things. He wouldn't get a job, and I was working like 60 hours a week. He came over and we got in this big fight, and then we were like, you know what, let's just go to bed. Let's like sleep on this. Let's talk about it in the morning. I shit you not, I lay down, I close my eyes, I look up, and there are 4 like black beings swirling around my ceiling. I'm like, what the world? I look out towards my window. There's a male figure standing at my window. And I'm like, you guys, so I've seen ghosts before. So I was like, you all are not welcome here. You need to leave. Get out. Blah, blah. And really creepy in this like really, I'm going to try to do it voice. He was like, they're here for me. They're upset for me that you're treating me the way you are. And I knew at that point he wasn't fucking kidding when he said that. He sold his so he's like getting really angry with me because I'm telling his friends, demons, to leave. And I look over to my window, or I look over to my door of my room that is cracked open, and there is, and I've never seen this before in my life, my blood ran cold. I haven't seen it since. This is the first time ever. There is a half man with like a goat's face or something with like the ram ears. I don't know what it was, like the ram horn things, standing with like red eyes, standing in my door frame, and I'm literally still getting chills to this day. This has been 10, 12 years, and I still am shocked by what happened. And so I'm like, I tell the guy, I say, I am so sorry. I love you. Like, I was mad. I didn't mean any of it. Like, absolutely. And yeah, when we broke up, I had to get a hotel room and stay out of my house because I was scared he would kill me, because he said he would kill me if I left him. So super good, but that is insane, right? Woo!
When I was young, my parents bought 130 acres to build a house, and then my mom decided that she wanted to decorate that house with antique furniture, and that's where we messed up. We didn't live there long when we started seeing some like shadow figure outside the front door, and my family didn't really believe in ghosts, so none of us really said anything about it until probably like a year later. One of us in the family was like, okay, does anybody else see this outside? Like, I keep seeing it past the window. Everybody in the family was like, oh my gosh, yes, I see it, but I thought I was crazy. The lady that owned the land before us, her name was Lucille, so of course my dad named her Lucille, and we all just refer to her as Lucille now. But we were all like, you know what, she seems nice, she minds her own business, she stays outside, no big deal, just leave her alone. Until I got pregnant. I was 17, so I still lived with my parents, and she decided to welcome herself inside. She would stay very close to me. She was always at every corner I was. I would take a shower, and I could see her out of the corner of my eye, standing in the doorway, watching me every time I showered, the whole time I was pregnant. No big deal, whatever. Watching after me, being nice. And then I gave birth. Still, no big deal. She was next to me in the baby. I thought maybe she was just a sweet ghost. And then one day, I laid my baby down, I sat the camera up, and I went and took a shower, and I was watching the camera while I took a shower, and I saw her laying in the crib next to him. So I ran out the bathroom, and I was like, look, girl, too much, too far, you need to go. You gotta leave. And she listened. She was very sweet. She listened. She moved upstairs to a spare room and didn't bother anybody else, but she would stand in the window and just watch everybody. Literally everybody knows about her. Delivery people, lawn care people, like literally everybody knows about Lucille. Then we ended up moving, and I never saw her again until now. So let me know if you want part 2 to find out how she lives with me again. I was told that I talked too fast and it made me self-conscious that I deleted my video, so I'm gonna try this again. So my parents sold that house, and the people that bought it decided to remodel, and they offered the carpet from Lucille's room to my sister. And when she took it, I guess that Lucille hitched a ride on it. So she lived with my sister for a while, and then I guess when my sister gave me some of her hand-me-downs, she decided to hitch a ride over here on those. Maybe she just walked. I don't really know how ghosts work. She does not have a face or any features. The best way to describe her is just a shadow figure. For some reason, it's understood that she's a woman, though. I don't know why. Like, we all know that it's a lady. She's never given us any problems, and she feels really nice, so we just let her stay. And she stays outside now. She lives in my front yard. But I don't have any pictures or videos of her because I don't expect to see her. I just see her outside my window. And honestly, we've seen her so much. She's been around for almost a decade, so we just don't, it doesn't surprise us anymore. Also, sorry to everybody that has sleepover at my house in high school. I couldn't warn y'all that I had a ghost because I would have sounded insane.
I had to turn on all my lights after reading this story. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and today I'm going to be talking about a story that I've been kind of putting off making the video for. And a huge driving factor on this, and now I'm going to be fully transparent about this, I'm not a fan of making videos about demonic things or demons specifically because every single time I've made a video, whether it's my personal experience or if it's someone else's, I hear things in either the background or in the audio and I have to reshoot it, something, every single time. I've also had instances where my dogs are growling at things that are not there, so you get the gist on why I'm a little hesitant to make videos about demonic things. But without further ado, let's get into it. The story comes from Lexi, who lives in West Virginia and lives in a very haunted house. She says that the hauntings started around the time when she was 6. Just for context purposes, she was 4 when her parents got a divorce, and her mom started seeing this man when she was around 6 years old, and shortly after, all of these hauntings started. And at first it was small occurrences, like her mom telling her to pick up her toys, so she would do so, and when they would come back, the toys would be scattered all across the floor. And she mentions during these instances her mom and her both were afraid because they both knew that it was almost impossible for these things to be happening. But they continued to brush off these little noises, these little occurrences, because they could be coincidental. And Lexi says that this continued for 2 years before her mom's boyfriend moved in, and his parents actually lived down the street from Lexi's mom, where all of this stuff is occurring. And one night, Lexi, her mom, and her mom's boyfriend go down to his parents' house to have dinner. A couple of his cousins were over with their kids, and there was this little girl there who was like 2 years older than Lexi at the time, so little girl was 10, Lexi was 8. And when they were playing, this little girl just out of the blue says, "Did you know that there's an old woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs?" And at the time, she thought it was creepy, but she just kind of brushed it off, thinking that the little girl was just trying to scare her. A couple days later, her mom is walking up the stairs to use the bathroom, and Lexi just tells her mom, "Hey," little girl's name, said that there is a woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs. Her mom kind of turns around and is like, "Which bedroom?" So Lexi walks upstairs, gets to the door, and goes to look in and points and says, "This one." And as she does, she did in fact see a woman standing there, very pale, black hair, and a long nightgown. Lexi specifically said that it looked like it was from the early 1900s. And obviously upon seeing this, Lexi ran downstairs, and her mom was really confused until they got back to their house and she explained the entire situation. Lexi's mom's boyfriend was overhearing this conversation and asked her to describe this woman, and when she did, he then said that they had been seeing that same woman there for years. And this is where things take a turn for the worse. Lexi says from that point on, the encounters in her house that were once very small became very amplified and very scary. And she said specifically that many nights she would feel like there was something in the room with her, even more specifically watching her sleep. But again, she brushed it off because she thought she was just scared. Until she was having a friend sleep over, and her friend woke her up in the middle of the night to specifically tell Lexi that she had seen a woman looking at her from over the footboard, just like this. And Lexi thought it was a joke until her friend described the exact same woman she had been seeing. And I guess things get even worse, because after this instance, Lexi's mom begins telling her that she has been seeing her walk around the house when she's not home. She can hear Lexi talking when she's not home. And Lexi had been seeing this woman in mirrors, like when she's brushing her teeth, for example. And on top of this, and what I think is the scariest, Lexi would hear clapping when nobody else was home, and people talking when nobody else is home. And most recently, she tells me that they have 2 dogs, and she brought one of the dogs into her room when she starts to hear the other dog whining and a woman talking to her dog. So immediately she opens the door, tells the other dog, like, "Mom's home." The dog does not get up and greet her mom like he would normally do. And when Lexi walks out to go see her mom, she finds out that her mom is not home, her car is not in the driveway, and she is still at work. So again, she goes back in her room, closes the door, clear as day, hears a woman say, "Come here, where are you?" And she can hear the dog go from whining to barking. So immediately, she thinks that someone has broken into her house. She locks her door, gets her softball bat out, and calls her mom to come home immediately. The dog she had with her began barking, and thankfully, her mom only works like 10 minutes away, so she rushed home. But during the time of her mom coming home, Lexi began to hear heavy footsteps coming towards her door. And Lexi specifically states that the energy felt so heavy, and when whatever was outside of the door got to the door, it got eerily silent, and the keychain she has on her door began swaying back and forth. Her mom then got home, found no one in the house, and Lexi believes that the spirit attached itself to her and followed them home and has not left, because that last instance happened like 3 weeks ago. And before I get into anything else, I just have to pause and say I've had to cut a couple of things out because I was hearing banging noises on my wall. And if you don't know, now you do. I either film early in the morning or late at night. I do this because then I don't have to worry about outside noises or my neighbors being awake, etc. So I don't know, and it's furthering the I don't like making videos about demons kind of thing. What really freaked me out was the clapping and obviously the lady looking over the footboard. I don't like that. And I swear I can almost see her face when I'm talking about this. And when I read it the first time, I could see her. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
If it is nighttime, you really do not want to watch this. I have had a lot of stories submitted to me from people that lived in the Denver Harbor, Houston area, but this one takes the cake. This story was submitted by a TikTok user named Alex. I will tag him below. Out of respect for everyone involved, this is all allegedly. Alex is the youngest of 4 brothers, and this story takes place back in the 1980s. I'm going to put a picture of the house here. This house was built in the 1940s, and before Alex and his family ever moved into the house, it already had a very tragic history. For the sake of the family, I'm not going to go too far into it, but I will say that some dark things happened in this house. Things that may or may not be related to dark ritualistic practices and violent crimes. Just know that the history of the house may have contributed to some dark entities being drawn to that area. That being said, the history of the house was not a concern for Alex and his family when they moved in. After moving in, this family quickly realizes that this house was haunted. Lights and radios would go on and off. The family members would hear disembodied voices in the middle of the night. But this family was having fun with the fact that their house was haunted. It didn't really bother them. It honestly became like a running joke between the family members, especially because Alex, the youngest of the 4 brothers, would actually get caught talking to someone out of his window, and they would be giggling for hours. His family members would be like, "Alex, who are you talking to?" His mom would even go outside to check to see if anyone was there, and no one was there. But Alex would swear up and down that the girl from school, a girl that he had a crush on, was coming to his window at night, and they were just giggling and having these conversations. But Alex was the only one that was ever able to see and talk to this little girl that was supposedly visiting him in the middle of the night. These types of hauntings would go on for about a year until this family experienced something so horrifying that it forced them to move out. Alex's oldest brother, who's about 25 years old at the time, sneaks off to the garage to smoke a cigarette. Moments later, Alex hears his brother stumbling back into the house, screaming for their father. His brother is racing towards their parents' bedroom, screaming and yelling, just, "Dad, Dad, there's a lady hanging in the garage." It's the middle of the night. His father gets out of bed. He's confused. He's a little bit angry, but he can hear the panic in his son's voice. Their father's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He pushes his son out of the way. He's quickly making his way to the garage, and sure enough, he sees the exact same thing that his oldest son just saw. Alex, who's 12 years old at the time, hears that there's something going on, so he kind of sneaks his way into the garage where his brothers and his parents are. Alex kind of nudges his way past his family members that don't even notice he's there because they're staring in complete shock. As soon as Alex is able to see what his family members are looking at, the blood just runs from his face. As Alex is standing there, in pure horror, he's noting every little detail of this woman. There's a rope tied around this woman's neck. There's blood and bodily fluids coming out of her mouth. The entire garage just smelled foul. This family has no idea who or why this woman is hanging in their garage. She looks to be about in her 30s. She's got dark hair. She's white. She's wearing this red oversized hoodie that goes down to her knees. She's got jeans on, but no shoes. The entire family is staring at this hanging woman, and she's still swinging as if this just happened a few moments ago. When Alex's dad realizes that his 12-year-old is in the garage with them, he yanks him back into the house and they call 911. The entire family evacuates the house and they're waiting outside for the police. When the police arrive, Alex's father just kind of points to the house and is like, "She's in the garage, the door's unlocked." Several moments go by and the officers come back out of the house with this pissed look on their face. One of the officers approaches the family and says, "You know it's illegal to make a false police report." At this point, the family's starting to panic. They're looking at each other because they really saw a hanging woman in their garage. The family starts pleading with the officers, like, "No, like, we're telling the truth." And the father would go inside to try to show them, but there was no one in the garage. The officers kind of looked around, but they didn't find anything, so they rolled their eyes and left. Needless to say, a few weeks after this incident, the family was out of there. To this day, all the members of Alex's family remember the hanging woman. Alex would go on to say that because of this event, he believes in the paranormal. And his family never forgot. That is all I have for this video. If you like spooky content like this, you can follow me if you want. If not, stay safe.
Gonna want to listen to this story, but trigger warning, I advise do not watch this in the dark or at night or sitting alone in your bed, because it will freak the shit out of you. This man goes to sleep with his wife and they're sleeping in bed, and around 3 o'clock in the morning he was woken up to this noise, and it sounded like the front door, like somebody was trying to like scruff or trying to get in through the front door. It has one of these front doors, when the door shuts, it automatically locks and you have to have the keys to get back in the house. I actually have a front door just like this. So the first thing he does, he gets his phone and he opens the Ring doorbell app. And when he's looking at the camera in the app, he sees his wife is outside and at this point it was 3 o'clock in the morning, it was freezing cold, and she was standing there shivering, trying to get in the house. But his wife is laying next to him. So he turns over to this person who is laying in bed with him and he shines a torch on her, and it is his wife. His wife is actually there and she's sleeping, she's fast asleep and she's fine. He checks the Ring doorbell app again and he's so confused because this woman looks just like his wife, but it's not his wife because his wife is laying next to him in bed. So as he approached the front door, and at this point he's thinking maybe it's a burglar or maybe it's somebody pretending to be his wife to trick him so they can get in the house. He does not open the door, but he shouts out, "Who is it? Who's there?" And this woman replied, "It's me. I've left my keys in my bag and I can't get in. It's freezing. Can you please open the door and let me in?" He froze because this woman sounded just like his wife. The exact same accent, same annotation. This woman literally was a photocopy of his wife. He replies, "Hold on a minute," and dashes back to his bedroom. To his wife, he shakes his wife awake, and of course when she wakes up she's really groggy, she's really tired, and he's like, "You need to see this." Shows her the Ring doorbell and this woman standing out there, and she's like, "Oh, when was this recorded?" He's like, "No, this video is a live video, this is happening right now." Explaining to her, he just spoke to this woman who looks and sounds exactly like her, his wife, and she said to him that she wants to come inside and she's freezing and that she just forgot her keys in her bag. So she ends up going downstairs. She's tired, she's pissed, she does not believe him. She opens the curtains and immediately shuts them as fast as she could because she's like, "What the hell? That is me." Both look at each other and they decide to speak to this woman outside. So the husband calls out, "What's your name?" And this woman outside replied with his wife's full name, including her middle name. He then asks, "What's your birthday?" And she gets it correct. He then even asked, "What do we have for dinner tonight?" And she replied what they had for dinner, plus saying that he cooked it, which was true. So the wife inside the house at this point is trying to control herself. She is freaking out, and the husband reaches over to her and says, "Ask it something only you would know." She's there thinking, what can I ask her? What can I ask her on the spot? Something that only she supposedly would know. Ask this woman outside, "The last time you went to your parents' house, what was the thing they changed about your bedroom?" There was a long pause, and the wife outside then goes, "Who is that? Is there someone else with you? Who's that there speaking?" She goes, "You're starting to freak me out. What is going on? Why are you not letting me inside?" At this point, the fake wife outside realizes she's actually speaking to the real wife inside. The husband and wife at this point are just like, "Answer the question, answer the damn question." And after another long pause, she answers the question, and correctly. The wife inside is absolutely terrified because only she is supposed to know about this. So she grabs her husband's hand and they run upstairs to go back to their bedroom, and they lock themselves in the bedroom. They pull out the Ring doorbell app and they watch this woman outside that looks just like the wife walk off in the backyard, and they presume she's off to find the spare key. They're truly convinced at this point, if this woman knows all these personal questions about them, she'll know where the spare key is. That's the story. It is terrifying, and it's so terrifying because I have a feeling that this was a jinn pretending to be the wife, but this jinn must have been watching them and must have been hanging around them for a long time. which is just terrifying to think. It is so scary. But let me know what you think about this story. Let me know what you think happened. If you think it must have been just a stranger that was pretending to be the wife trying to get in, or if you think it was some sort of paranormal activity.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best. This was 20 years ago, and it was the most traumatizing mystery of my life that most of the details are fuzzy. A lot of it doesn't make any sense, so I'm going to preface it by explaining that. A lot more should have been done. If I could go back, I would have demanded more answers. Okay, but this was 2005. I was at a friend's house that I knew this girl. She had been to my house a few times, and I'm going to call her Paige. She had been to my house a few times, but this was the first time I had been to her house. My mom drops me off at her house. My mom knew her mom, and her mom was there. After my mom had left, the mom's boyfriend showed up, and I didn't know she had a boyfriend. He didn't introduce himself to us. He just like walked past and then went upstairs and stayed upstairs. I don't remember seeing him again. And then later, another girl that I knew from school showed up. I didn't know she was going to be there. I'm going to call her Tori. She showed up, and like, I barely knew her, but I don't remember many details of the actual sleepover, like if we were just like hanging out and having fun. I don't have any memory of that. But Paige had gone upstairs to go to sleep in her bed, and then me and Tori stayed downstairs, and we found ramen in their kitchen. We were hungry, so we made ramen. We ate ramen. After eating, I remember having a really bad headache, like migraine. It was bad. I felt nauseous. I felt kind of like the room was spinning. But I was taught to not take anything away from home, so I just dealt with it the best I could. Got ready for bed, and that was when I learned that I was going to be sharing a pull-out couch with Tori, who I barely knew. So I was like already a little uneasy feeling about that, just because I didn't know her, you know? And we were laying next to each other, and that was when she told me that she was bisexual, and, you know, to not worry about her hitting on me, even though I was pretty. But it was the way she said it. I think that would make anyone uncomfortable, especially at 13. This was a different time also, and I just wanted to go to sleep. I felt horrible. So I was like, why are you telling me? Like, I didn't know what to do with that information, you know? And now I'm going to sleep next to you. And it's just, you know, so I was just trying to go to sleep and not be freaked out, hoping for the best. And this is where it gets really traumatizing for me. So, I remember waking up in the middle of the night, no idea what time it was. And I felt even worse. Like, I had a horrific headache. I felt so nauseous. I didn't know my name. I remembered that my pillow was gone. And that was when I realized I forgot the word for pillow. And I remember freaking out because I'm like, what's that called? Like, I forgot the word for pillow. And then I found it laying next to me, like on the floor next to me. And so I got it. And then I look over and Tori isn't there. And I think that's odd, but I was more focused on how I was feeling, which was terrible. Freaking out, like, why can't I remember my name? And then I noticed that my shorts that I'm wearing are not on right. And that freaks me out a little bit. I don't know. I'm not going to explain more like what I mean, but my shorts were not on right. And obviously we don't get to choose the details that we remember. I just remember that. I don't know why I remember that. I do. I wish I could block that part out. Anyway, so at some point I pass out again, and then I wake up in the hospital. Still don't know my name. My parents are there. Apparently the sheriff or somebody had showed up to our house in the middle of the night to let them know that their daughter was in the hospital. Honestly, I don't know. I arrived by ambulance apparently to the hospital, and I don't know who called. I don't know what symptoms I was showing for them to call the ambulance. I don't know who gave the hospital my name, because I didn't know my name. I don't know. And it's so strange that nobody told us who called the ambulance, because we've tried asking them and they acted like they didn't know. And that's strange to me. That's a huge red flag that they just didn't answer that question. Anyway, so my parents were there. And the police had showed up, asked me questions, but I was really confused, so I wasn't answering them the right way. They started asking my mom questions, and he was more focused on like, okay, how long has she been having memory loss? Is this like a condition she has? And my mom's like, no, like she has the best memory in the world, and I do. And he was like, well, this is probably just like kids having fun, like drinking too much. And I had no memory of drinking. I don't think it showed up in my tox report or anything. They did a kit and all that. No evidence shown. My mom remembers them kind of like skirting by a lot of things and not really focusing on the right things. She tried to push more. She tried to push for an investigation and to check again, because she knew her daughter. She knew that this wasn't right. She didn't feel like she had a lot of control. She regrets not pushing more, but I feel like in the situation she was traumatized. She did what she felt like she could. She was trying to protect me. This was also a different time. They were not handling things the right way. They didn't, I don't feel like they were helpful at all. I tried to contact my friend, Paige, the one I knew. She didn't answer my calls. I didn't have the other girl's number. So we have no idea who called the ambulance, what happened, anything like that. CPS should have been called. Somebody should have been investigated. Yes, 100%. My mom wanted to get me home to protect me. She felt terrified that somebody had followed us to the hospital. I don't know. I went back to school. I don't know at what point I went back to school, but I went back to school. I tried talking to the friend that I knew, Paige. She avoided me. It's like we stopped being friends after that. And then Tori, the girl that I barely knew, I never saw her again. And I'm not saying she stopped going to school there, but I never saw her again. So I don't know, was she hiding from me? I don't know. I feel like somebody knew what was happening. Somebody has answers and they didn't want to tell me, because why would the mom not want to explain what happened if she saw something or she knew what happened? I don't know. I'm going to be digging up hospital records. I wish we had done that sooner, but I kind of didn't want to know for a long time. I felt like I was trying to protect myself because I felt like that'd be more traumatizing to know. But I guess since it's been 20 years, I'm kind of like at the point where I want that mystery to like be somewhat solved. Like I want some clarity because it has been one of the biggest like traumatizing things of my life that I never had answers to. I'm gonna have to do a part 2, but what was I saying? Right. It was, very traumatizing, obviously, and the reason I'm even bringing it up now is just, I guess, give myself a chance to just bury it for real, to see if maybe I can put it in my past. And that always terrified me, just because I knew I would know, or potentially know, more of what happened, and that feels paralyzing to me just thinking about it. It always has. Same with my mom. Some people mention, or someone mentioned, how can my mom be traumatized? It didn't happen to her. It happened to her. I'm a mom. I'll tell you one thing, if that happened to my kid, I can clearly see that person that commented that is not a parent. That's crazy. My mom, you should see her face when I've revisited this lately, and my mom is still traumatized by that night. No one wants to have a police officer show up at their door because their daughter's in the hospital, for one, and two, not know what happened. My mom was paralyzed, and my mom did what she felt was best. I have a good mom. I do. And she did what she felt was best to protect me. Also, I want to address the ones that have commented, why did you mention her sexuality? Tori, that's just something I remember. I was uncomfortable. She hit on me. I would have been uncomfortable if a friend I knew hit on me as a 13-year-old girl that was sleeping next to you. I don't know, that's just something I remember. We can't pick our memories from trauma, I guess. I don't know, or at least I haven't figured out how to do that. And if I could choose the memories, I would have blocked out everything. And I did my best to, but so yeah, I'm not hateful. It's just something I remember. That's all. Nothing more. Yeah, there are a lot of holes in this story. Unfortunately, I can't fill them all. I do believe there are guilty parties at play, for sure. I'm not saying that Tori did anything. I don't know. I just know things started happening after we had ramen. I don't know if it was something with her or the man that was there, my friend's mom, or even the friend that I know. I don't know. And that I just know something happened. I have never in my life had memory loss to where I forgot my name, forgot the word for pillow. I guess maybe once I actually get brave to dig up the hospital records, I can maybe share more. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that may be all for now. So I think I've rambled enough. Also, I'll be back to only posting funny videos from now on. This will not be my usual content, so don't expect that from me unless I eventually get more details in the future. But I like to make people laugh on this app, so that's gonna continue if I have any say in the matter. Okay, thank you.
So I have in fact experienced a real life haunting one time when I was babysitting. Very old house, 3 kids ages 5, 3, and 1. Before the parents left, the dad looked at me and said, "Hey, I'm sorry." I have no idea what he was saying sorry for. I was like, "Oh, that's okay." The whole time I kept hearing creaks and whispers throughout the house. But it was a really old house, so I was like, I'm just imagining this. And the 5-year-old looks at me and says, the 5-year-old looks at me and says, "Hey, did you know we used to have a cat and it on Halloween, and so my dad buried it in the backyard." I was like, that's great. If you are with kids a lot, you know they say weird things. She wanted to play a game where she was the cat that I had to bury in the backyard. It was a weird night. So I put the kids to bed. Like clockwork, 5-year-old gets up and says she needs a glass of water. Getting her a glass of water when a cat covered in dirt runs up from the basement. I say, "Hey, I thought you said your cat." She said, "He did." I said, "Then who's this cat?" She looks at me and says, "What cat?" And it's like swirling at her feet. I think she's messing with me. I'm like, whatever, so I send her back to bed. Then I was like, well, I have this stray cat running around these people's house. So like an idiot, I chase the cat and it runs into the basement. Why I followed it down, I don't know. But I did, and when it got to the bottom of the stairs, it went into a corner and disappeared. I was like, weird. I went back upstairs to go do my homework. Then I hear metal clanging at the front door, like someone's clanging. And I think the parents are home early and they're struggling to get inside, so I go to open the door for them. And they're like so loud, they're struggling so much. I open the door, nobody's there. I was like, I'm getting a little freaked out now. So I go back on the couch to start texting my friends what's happening. And I turn around and the picture behind me has turned sideways. Then I start hearing whispers around the house. I think the kids have woken up, so I go to their room to tell them to be quiet. Knocked out asleep. Got really nervous, so I had to go pee. I go to the bathroom and all the lights in the house shut off. I immediately text the parents, "You need to come home. Something's wrong. All the lights just shut off." As soon as I texted that, I heard footsteps coming upstairs, like from the basement coming upstairs. And there are voices saying, "Where is she? The lights are off. Where is she? The lights are off." And so I'm like, okay, thank God the parents are home. Like, I'm done. And so I turn on the flashlight on my phone and I go to meet them at the steps. I thought it was weird they were coming from the basement, but I figured maybe there was like a door to the garage there or something. And so I yell out to them like, "I'm here, I'm over here, your lights came out, sorry." I shine my flashlight towards the basement. No one's there. Their 2 dogs run over to me and sit on my right and my left and lowered their heads towards the basement. And I'm hearing whispers and I'm assuming the dogs heard it too. It's probably the scariest I've ever been in my life, but I'm still a babysitter, so I still have to like protect the kids. So I run back into the hallway in front of the kids' room just to stand in front. Like if I was gonna go out, at least I was gonna go out protecting those kids. Then all of a sudden the whispering stopped. The lights slowly came back on. I got on the phone with some friends. They were trying to come pick me up, but I couldn't leave the kids. I stayed on the phone with friends until the parents got home. I was really shaken up, so I couldn't even tell the parents what happened. I just took the money and left. I was so scared, I turned on the lights in my car on the way home because I just was horrifying. And then I slept with all my lights on that night. I never went back, but I am still a babysitter. So, I guess it didn't scare me too much.
Spooky story time. This happened to me and we're gonna call it the medium. So I am a small business owner of a year-round Halloween store in San Antonio, Texas. And one day these 2 women come to my store, they shop around, they buy some stuff, and as they're getting ready to leave, one of the sisters kind of comes back and she looks at me and she's like, "Hey, how do you feel about psychic mediums, paranormal, spirits? Do you believe in that stuff?" And I said, "Look around. Of course I do. I believe in all of it." So she comes right back into the store and her sister's like, "Here we go." And she tells me, "My name is so-and-so and I'm a psychic medium." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "And I ask you something." And I said, "Let it rip, sister. Go ahead." And she said, "There is someone standing behind you. And he's tall. He's slim. He has tattoos on his head, on his neck. He has tattoos everywhere." She stays quiet and she's like, "He's your husband's friend. Do you know who I'm talking about?" And I was like, "Absolutely. It is one of his very close friends that passed years ago, about maybe 10, 11 years ago." And immediately I was floored because How could she possibly know this? His description, the fact that he's my husband's friend, like, you know? So we start talking, and she's like, I have another question. Is this space blessed? And I said, well, I cleanse it about once a week, just because you never know who's walking into your area. So I always cleanse it. I burn sage, I burn incense, just a whole bunch of stuff. And she says, yeah, I can tell that this place is kind of protected because he is standing behind you and he's telling me something. He's talking. He wants to say something, but I don't understand what he's saying because his words are just jumping like off the walls. And that normally happens when your place is protected. And I was like, yes. Then she asks me, are you intrigued by Ouija boards? And I said, I collect them. And she's like, yeah, I'm getting that vibe from you. And all I have to say is don't do it. I don't mess with them. I don't play with them, but I've been wanting to play with one for a long time. And she said, don't do it. Then she proceeds to tell me, hasn't anybody told you that you're a ley line? And I was like, oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. And she says, imagine being in a pitch black room and you have a flashlight lit right here. It's like, you're blinded. You can't see anything. But if there's anyone out there, they can see you. And I said, okay. So she says, if you wanted to open your third eye, you'd be able to communicate with spirits. I'm sensing that you have a gift, you just haven't opened it yet. She said, do you always witness weird stuff? Noises, you see things, you hear things, and it always only happens to you. And I said, all the time. All the time. Since I was little, I've always seen stuff. I've always heard things. I've always known things. I've had intuitions. And even now that I'm married, sometimes I would see stuff and I would tell my husband and he's like, kind of like not believing me because it always happened to me. So she says that it's like if I'm standing in the room with the flashlight on and the spirits can see that they can come to me to communicate. The problem is I can't hear them. I'm not open to that channel yet. So she proceeds to ask me if I'm interested in learning how to open that side and if I want access to it. And I just don't know how I feel. What's crazy is that I've had at least 3 people tell me the same thing, that I have a gift and that's why I'm so intrigued by it. So she says for me not to play the Ouija board because of the gift that I have, that it would just be chaos. It would not be good. And I'm going to take her word for it. I don't plan on playing one anytime soon. But what do you guys think about psychic mediums and being able to see and hear things? Do you believe in that? I'm considering it, but I'm just scared. What do you guys think?
Okay, I have a ghost story to tell you. I'm in a new hospital and I was walking around and it's empty and it's kind of creepy, and I heard some noises and I started thinking about all the different like ghost stories that I have from years of working in ICU. But the creepiest story that I have, sorry about that noise, it's loud but I can't turn it off. The creepiest story that I have. So I worked in a hospital that the unit that I worked on had never been anything but a cardiovascular ICU, or cardiothoracic. It was hearts and lungs and heart transplants, total artificial heart, lung transplants, anything cardiac related. So on this floor, there was a patient that we had one time. There was a particular room that kind of gave you the heebie-jeebies when you walked past it. And we had a patient in that room that he was not a nice human. He was somebody that I had actually known like outside of the hospital, so I never took care of him because it was a conflict of interest. But one night he was confused, so he was just saying kind of mean, hateful things. But one of the things that he kept saying is he kept using a racial slur, the N-word, and he kept saying, "Get that little racial slur out of here. He's playing in here. Get him out of here. I don't want that little racial slur in my room." And everybody, like, this man, I didn't like him outside of, you know, the hospital and as a patient, and was confused, and it was not good. But anyway, he ended up leaving that room, got better, left. And then when you're in the hospital, you can get confused, and it's very normal for you to hallucinate. You have medications on board, like, you know, that's just kind of a normal thing. It just kind of, sometimes your true colors show up whenever you are on medications. You know, I've had women punch me that, you know, their family members say, like, "Oh, they're so sweet and kind," but then they get on, you know, medications, and then they are, you know, hitting and kicking. And anyway, anesthesia can do that to you, as well as medications, and, you know, your even your sodium gets off. You know, there's all sorts of things that can influence you. So we didn't think much of it. I think it was like 2 days later, not just a couple days later, we had the sweetest little old lady in that room, and I did take care of her. She was adorable. I swear she was, I can't remember, she was in her late 80s, but she was so sweet and so cute, poor lady. But she was not confused, and she kept telling me, she was like, "Can you get my purse for me? Give me my purse. I really need my purse. It's over there." And I was like, "What do you need your purse for?" And a lot of times we don't give patients their belongings, because there might be extra pills in there, and we got to know what they're taking. So I said, "Well, let me help you go through your purse, and, you know, what is it that you want out of there?" She says, "I have some candy in there. I really want to get some candy for that little boy. He keeps coming in here and playing, and I have some candy that I'd like to give him." And I said, "What, there's no little boy? And she says, "Yes, there's a little black boy. He keeps playing over there in the drawers, and he's looking for some food, but I have some candy, and I'd like to give it to him."
This unit had never been a pediatric unit. There was never children. There wasn't any children on the unit, and nobody was visiting, especially no children. It's pretty creepy.